Oh yeah, and I think
Frank's did. And I missed above it. That side Thank you for coming out on such an early morning. And what day is today? Wednesday? I lose track of what day I'm in since I was elected city clerk. But it's a real pleasure for me to be here. It's always a pleasure to be any place that Hilmi and Sharif and Suleiman, I don't see Suleiman, but any chance I get to spend time with these three young men is a pleasure for me. I see them not as colleagues, but honestly friends and family. My experience in the legislature is what brought me to actually get to know Hilmi and Suleiman and Sharif and the Niagara Foundation and the work that they do. And it's been just an amazing experience ever since the day I met you, Hilmi. I'm trying to remember how that happened, but it just seems like you've always been a part of my life. So, my mother had the wonderful experience of being able to travel to Turkey with us a few years back, and Hilmi and I talk about this because it was a special trip for him, because on that trip is when he proposed to his wife Aisha, who he now has a very beautiful baby with. I said he did a very good job making that baby because he's absolutely gorgeous. No, it's not. But family is a very important thing, obviously, to Hilmi. That's something that's incredibly important to me as a person. So for my family to be able to share with his family in such an important moment was a beautiful thing. And that's why I think we could say that we have a long history together as friends and also colleagues on a professional level. Hilmi has been able to take his message from the Niagara Foundation of building global partnerships and friendships to the legislature. Hopefully, with my now being city clerk, we'll be able to extend that into the city council. I think that it's incredibly important for people from all walks of life to expand their horizons, to leave the comfort of what they know in terms of their home base and geography, and to go ahead and explore the world. That is the only way that we will truly, in my opinion, get to a point where we can really begin to talk concretely about peace. There's one thing to think you know what it is to be a person of another culture or a different part of the world. And then there is another reality when you actually meet a person, when you're on their home turf, in their country, and get to ask questions and get to know them as a human being. And I think regardless of where I've been in the world, whether it's, Canada, which is pretty similar to us, right? Or anywhere in the United States, or as far away as Iraq, which we could say we probably have nothing in common with, right? At the end of the day, when you meet with people, whether it's Canadians or Iraqis, we all want the same thing, and that's to have what we consider a good life, to be able to provide for our families, and to be able to dream, to be able to have wishes and desires that if you're able to actually work for or have an opportunity to work for are achievable. So there's really so much more that we share in common as a culture, irregardless of what your religion is. Then we actually have that separates us. What separates us is entirely, I think, within our own head and our own ignorance at times. And so that's why I encourage everyone to get out there, to get out of their shell. It's amazing to me how many members of the legislature and how many members of Congress of our country don't even have a passport, have never left the United States of America. Yet we are the same people who create foreign policy, who think we know everything there is to know about everything in terms of peace and how we maintain it or how we prosper it or promote it in foreign policy. It's absurd to me that we have those types of mentalities, and not just mentalities, but actual practices, that we think that we know what's best for everyone else without even getting out of our comfort zone. So that's why for me it's really important, and I feel blessed as an elected leader to have been able to have the opportunities that I've had at such a young age. I'm not so young anymore, but certainly when I got elected, I was 27. And I think my first trip out of the country on behalf of the State Department was when I was 28 maybe. That's when I went to Africa, and I spent 2 weeks out there. And it's not what you think. It was not a junket by any means. It was pure work from 7 a.m. till 10 p.m. I didn't get to see a single, real piece of wildlife. I think I actually sent to my mom a postcard of a chicken and a cow that I saw, because that was the closest I got to wildlife. I said, Mom, this is the closest I've gotten to wildlife while I've been in Africa. So that's kind of a shame, but the experience in and of itself was amazing. And that moment to me was such an eye-opener. And from there, you know, it was getting the opportunity to travel to China, meeting Hilmi, going to Istanbul and to all the other parts of Turkey, and then just getting the travel bug, frankly, whether it was through business or personal, trying to see the rest of the world and noticing how different things are, but also how the people are so similar across cultures, across faiths, you name it, across geographic boundaries. So you may wonder why that even is relevant to what I do as a city clerk or as a state legislator. And I like to talk about my foreign travel experience because I think it makes me a better elected official. It makes me a person that is truly accepting and wanting to know and inquisitive about other people and their cultures, about what I can do to make their experience, whether it was in the legislature or in the city, a better experience. I'm fully focused on trying to make the customer experience one that they can be proud of and happy about. As a Chicago leader, I would say that most importantly, I'm a Chicago resident. I live and breathe this city. I love this city, and I was born in this city. And when I am walking around the city, no one knows who I am. I mean, it's not like I'm Mayor Rahm Emanuel that everybody knows now, right? Most people don't know who I am. Every now and then you get somebody who recognizes you, but for the most part, the cool part is that nobody knows who I am. So when I get to go into a building, or I go to Walgreens, or I go to the front desk downstairs, right? I'm just a regular person, and I get treated just like anybody else would. And that's a good thing, and it's a bad thing, because the bad part about it is when you are on the receiving end of bad customer service, right? And we've all been there. We've all been there. The good thing is that I actually get the bad customer service, because most likely, I bet you Mayor Rahm Emanuel doesn't get too much bad customer service, right? Paul, you know.
Never a second time.
It's like exactly, never a second time. They don't live to do it. But the point of the matter is, I know what it feels like to be having a bad day, to show up to a place and even have a worse day because somebody can't be friendly, somebody can't smile. And I remember when I first decided to run for city clerk, there were reasons why I thought it was a great opportunity. Number one, most people don't even know what the city clerk does, why we have a city clerk, whether we should have a city clerk. But I will tell you that the city clerk is the second largest office in the city of Chicago, but most importantly, it's the most visited office in the city of Chicago. So what does that tell you? It tells you that people have to deal with our office whether they want to or not. Our office is responsible for maintaining all of the government records. So if you ever have a question about a piece of legislation or a bill, an ordinance, or what your alderman is up to, you would go to our office to get that information. So when we talk about issues of transparency in government and everyone wants to know what's going on, I would further define that word transparency. To me, the word transparency is it's become so overused that it's almost like a cliche, and it doesn't really mean what it's supposed to mean. Over the last few years, when I hear the word transparency and I see the results of what that is, it's mainly giving people so much information just to say, we put it all out there, here it is. To me, that's not transparent, because it's so hard to find the one little tidbit of information that you actually want. So is it really being transparent to overload me with a ton of information that I have no idea how to navigate through? I don't think it is. So when I decided to run for city clerk, I thought, I know that our government can do a much better job of informing its citizenry. If I have a question about my government, it shouldn't be easier to decipher the Da Vinci Code than it is to go to our website and get the answer to the question that I have. So that was a very big motivating factor for me, that I knew that I could do a better job than has been done in the past in providing that information to Chicagoans. Why? Because I've searched for it myself and had a difficult time getting it. Number two, our office is also responsible for issuing and collecting the revenue for approximately 1.3 million city stickers in the city of Chicago. So what's a city sticker? It's a wheel tax. It's a tax. We can call it city sticker, call it whatever you want. It's a tax. So here's my theory. If you go to the city clerk's office and you have to pay a tax, the very least we should do is be friendly to you in the process. We should make it easy for you to pay that tax, right? So it's beyond me that we would have a system in place that makes it difficult for you to pay your city sticker. So if you go online, it's like, oh my gosh, it's kind of archaic. Or if you go in person to City Hall, that we'd have all these roadblocks in your way to be able to pay a simple fee, right? So my thought is if you have to pay it, which you do, we should at least try to make your experience as pleasant as possible. So one of the things that I'd like to do in the city clerk's office is really, really streamline it. We went from a online system that was very difficult to actually even get to the page where you have to purchase your city sticker. You'd go to our website and then you'd have to click like 6 times before you were actually in the purchasing mechanism. So now you just go to our homepage and it's right there, boom, slapping you in the face. Buy your city sticker. Very super simple. But I've only been in office a few months, so we haven't changed the whole world yet. But hopefully by next year we're going to have a much better system in place. But I'm very proud of what we've been able to do. Within my first 10 days in office, we had made over 240 improvements to the website, which is very, very significant. In the past, the website was seen as just kind of like an extra thing that we had in the clerk's office. I actually want it to be the driving engine of our office. So we will be having to make some major, major changes to our website. I envision a CRM system, which is a customer relationship management system, where you could go log in to the clerk's website, have a username, a password, have access to all of the services that we provide, all of the services that we sell. For example, business licenses, street vendor licenses, dog licenses. Do any of you folks know that we are actually responsible for licensing your dogs? I will say, if you haven't licensed your dog and you live in the city of Chicago, please visit our website and make sure that you do license your dog. But you'll be hearing next year, we will be rolling out a major initiative to try to license dogs across the city of Chicago, but also to enforce the fact that we are responsible for licensing dogs, and many people do not. But we want to give people an incentive and an understanding of why it's important to license your dog, as an example. And we want to also recognize that we have a lot of money when we talk about being in a tough financial crunch, which we are. There are a lot of opportunities for us to capture revenue, which we're not really going after. So how many of you have pets, dogs? Anybody? Do you love your dog? Okay. So I have come to recognize that a lot of people that actually do have dogs in the city of Chicago love their dogs more. I won't say they love them more than they love their kids, but it's like right up there. And for example, on our website, what we want to do is provide a vehicle for you to be able to purchase. Let's say you're purchasing your city sticker, that you could have a shopping cart function and also go on to purchase a dog license. But when you're on the dog license page, we'd have a whole slew of things available to you, like very cool dog tags. Right now, our tag is a sticker. It's so lame. It's $5, but maybe if you upgrade for $10, you get a nicer dog tag, or 20 or 30, whatever, but Chicago themed. And we'd have a dog sweater with the Chicago flag. And, think, you can go on and on and on, right? But people pay $8 for a cookie for their dog, right? So I think we can get people to pay $5 for the license and additionally get excited about some of the other shopping opportunities that we can make available to them. Today, our system does not allow for that, but it will in the future and in the near future. So I think that it's just an issue of identifying where we can make money and how we can do it in a fun way that's not an imposition on anyone. I mean, I would gladly purchase something cool for my pet if I knew that it was available. And we do know that people love this city. As much as we like to gripe about Chicago and everything that's wrong with it, every single one of us is proud of this city. When we're not in this city, when we're in Iowa or anywhere else for that matter, where are you from? Chicago. We love this city. It's kind of like that brother that ticks you off every now and then. It's still your brother and you love him. So I think that every single one of us has a lot of Chicago pride, even in the bad times, certainly in the good times. But I think that we need to capitalize on that and have an office that is reflective of the people that we represent, that is modern, that is technologically savvy. And frankly, I don't want to be our office just to be the most technologically savvy office in Chicago. I want it to be the most technologically savvy, user-friendly, social media-rich office in the country. And that is why I ran to be city clerk, These are things that I understand. They're things that I love to get engaged in. And I think that the office has a great deal of potential that's been under maximized forever, frankly. Also, the most important reason why I decided to run for city clerk is because the office in and of itself was created by the legislature to serve as a checks and balances to the fifth floor, to the city government overall. And it really has not. Over the last 20 plus years, we know that we had a very, very strong mayor. Certainly we have a strong mayor right now as well, and that's a good thing because Chicago needs a strong mayor. But we also need some semblance of independence. And the city clerk's office for many, many years just became basically, while it was still an elected office, it functioned actually more as like an appointed office by the fifth floor, which it was not supposed to be. So when I ran for office, I analyzed the political scene and I thought, wow, this will be the first time in a few decades that a candidate for city clerk can consciously make the choice to run independent of any of the mayoral candidates. So I did not seek the endorsement or the financial support or the volunteer support from any of the mayoral candidates. And regardless of who would have won the mayor's race, my position is the same, which is that I will be independent of the fifth floor. Now, that doesn't mean that I won't want to work with the fifth floor. Of course I do. I think it's absolutely necessary that all of us, the treasurer, the clerk, and the mayor, work as a team as often as we can. But I think it's also important for the citizenry that they know that they have independently elected leaders who are willing to stand up when they see that things are going in the wrong direction. And so I've made that very clear to Chicagoans. I've also made it very clear to the mayor. He was gracious enough to attend one of my fundraisers soon after the election, at which point we reiterated our desire to work together, but also that I would stand strong with my commitment to Chicago to be an independent voice on the first floor of City Hall, and if necessary, be an independent voice apart from the fifth floor. And so that's an important thing. To tell you how difficult that was, just to give you an idea, that means that when you run as a truly independent, that means you're not getting the support of the massive army that a Rahm Emanuel or even a Gary Chico had, right? If I would have picked sides, it would have been so much easier for me, because then when it's petition time and all of you are asked to sign a petition, I don't have to come up with my own people to do that, or I certainly don't have to pay people to do that, because the mayor's team, whether it's Mayor Daley in the past or the guys now, they have the mobilized force, right? So if you say, well, if you're with me, then I'll take care of your signatures, don't worry about it. If you're with me, don't worry about the mail. I'll put you on my mailers. Really, that sounds very attractive. It's a lot easier. You don't have to go out and scramble to raise the kind of money that you need. But what does that mean? Once you get elected, you really owe the person that helped you get there in a big way, which is why it's difficult to really have an independent voice from the fifth floor, because you basically owe your job to the fifth floor. So I didn't want to be in that position. That meant I had to get my own signatures. And to put it in perspective, if I was running for governor of the state of Illinois or for U.S. Senate, which is a national position, although statewide, I need 5,000 signatures to get elected, and I could collect them from any registered voter in the state of Illinois. To run for city clerk of the city of Chicago, you need 12,500 signatures. That makes no sense. It's perfect Chicago politics, where it's almost impossible to get into the game if you're not super connected. So what they didn't count on was that I have so much energy that I'll go out and get those 12,500 signatures. And I did it, and I did it with a group of friends and volunteers. We didn't pay for a single signature, and we didn't get one at all, not a single signature other than of the candidates themselves who were running for mayor. I asked all of them. And we also raised our own money, and I raised over $500,000 just to go up on television, which is the first time that any candidate for city clerk has actually gone up on TV. But in a very short election cycle, when the mayor announced his retirement, that gave us just a few months to campaign. And there is no way that I could get my name out to the entire city of Chicago in a way that would allow you to try to make an informed vote as to who I am. So the only option was to go up on TV if we were serious about running this race in a way to win. And so we did. We went up on TV, and our website was splattered all over it. We had a ton of traffic going to our website so that people could educate themselves about me. And when we posted information about me, it just wasn't about me. Any article that came out about me or came out about my opponent, we put them up on our website. the editorial questionnaires from the Tribune and the Sun-Times, both of our questionnaires and answers were up on the website. We were asking people, compare the candidates. You know, don't just read the good stuff about me, but any article that came up about me, good or bad, we put up there so that people could make an informed choice as to who their city clerk should be. And I wanted people to see how we ran our campaign would be the way in which we ran that office once I was elected. So we're there now. We've had the most successful city sticker season ever in the history of the city clerk's office. So I'm very, very proud of that. Does that mean we did everything great? No, we didn't. We made some mistakes along the way, some mistakes that were unavoidable, that weren't our fault, other mistakes that certainly were our fault. Nothing major, obviously you would have read about it in the papers, but what we're doing now is next week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we are going to have a retreat with all of my top leadership. We're going to bunker down in our conference room, which if you've seen the TV has a bunch of roaches down there. So it's not a pleasant place to be. But we're going to hunker down for 3 days, all of my leadership and one worker from each of the front lines that was affected during the city sticker season. And we are going to basically have a powwow where we talk about everything that went wrong, how we handled those situations when we had problems, what our handling of that situation, how that affected other operations in the office, and then also what our proposed solutions are to fixing those situations so that we can prevent them from happening in the future. And not only are we going to do this, but we're going to put together a report about all of the problems that we had, but also the proposed solutions that we have moving forward and our recommendations, and we're going to make that report public. I don't know that there's ever been an elected official in the city of Chicago that's done that, that's aired their dirty laundry, but I think it's really important so that you as citizens know how difficult of a season we had, but also that it was our most successful season, but I certainly am not going to pat myself on the back and say, yay, we won, because we didn't. Every year we will be able to do better. And I want to keep you informed, and when we talk about transparency, I don't think you can get more transparent than telling you these are the mistakes that we made, these are the challenges that we face, and this is what we need to do to try to fix it. So that's where we're at. I think so far so good, but I really am never going to feel satisfied in my job until every single one of the people that ever interacts with our office, you know, can talk about the great job that we're doing. We're always going to have challenges, but just know that as your city clerk, I am committed to customer service being a top priority for me. There are a lot of challenges, certainly as a manager coming from a position where I was a legislator to moving into a position where it's more administrative and more of a managerial position. Those are challenges in and of themselves, but I'm certainly up for the task. I'm enjoying every minute of it. And I was telling Hilmy, he said, what's it like to be in Chicago versus Springfield? Or Sharif might have asked me that. And I said, oh my gosh, it's great because I'm home, but it's so much more difficult than I envisioned. I did envision it being a tough job, but like I said, most people don't know much about the city clerk's office, so you think it's kind of a sleeper position, but I can assure you that it is not. And I am not the type of person who can sit still for 5 minutes, so it really is the perfect job for me right now because there is so much work to be done, and there are so many improvements that need to be done, that if it was anything but that, I don't think I'd enjoy the position. So that's why I ran. That's why I'm here. I want to thank any of you that actually voted for me, but let you know that I'm going to do everything I can to earn that trust and keep it. And I don't just want to be the best city clerk this city's ever seen. I'd like to be the best elected official this city's ever voted for, and that's a big, huge goal to set for myself, but it's certainly, I've never been one to shy away from a big goal. So thank you very much. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have about the position, what it does and so forth, but it's just a pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you. We are in large part ahead of the curve of a lot of cities, but we are so far behind the curve when it comes to the private sector. So our website, I think when I look at other cities and what they're doing is, you know, right up there or better than most. The city clerk's website, I think, is actually in large part better than the city's website. I really do believe that. But I know in my head where I want our website to be. So that's why I can't be satisfied. And I look at it and people go, oh my gosh, your website is so much better. And I'm like, thanks. But it's something that I think about all the time. And I'm not happy. I'm not happy at all. So we've patchworked and piecemealed what we think is a much better website right now than it was before. but it's still a joke in my mind compared to where I know we can be with the minimal investment. So I think, what people don't recognize, and certainly in city government, right now we're trying to cut everything back, right? But the website in and of itself can help us generate revenue in ways that people just don't get. I get it. So we'll get there, whether it's piecemealing it here or there. But my big focus is going to be to move to a CRM system, which basically is going to have to revamp that website. And I guarantee you that 5 years from now, everyone's going to be doing this. The city of Chicago will be doing it. County government will be doing this. But we want to be the first office to put it on the map. And I just think the results will speak for themselves. But when always you're trying to pioneer an idea, you're going to have people that say it can't be done or it's going to cost too much or whatever. But what I can tell you is the best part of my job is that I'm the boss. So when there's a good idea, I could just say, let's do it. I don't have to run it through a chain of 20 people or assistant commissioners or you name it, because I've seen so many great ideas just get stuck in the process of, this red tape of, well, no, I don't think that's going to work, or what if we do it and it doesn't work? And so people are just afraid to actually make a decision and take the heat if it fails. They're quick to accept the praise, but very, very quick to throw someone under the bus if it doesn't work, right? So we're going to be trying all kinds of stuff. And some of it's going to work and some of it's not going to work. And I'm totally happy to talk to the media or whoever else wants to criticize me when something goes wrong, and defend why we tried it and that it's okay to try things and fail. But everything I do, you can trust me, is based on what I believe is best for the taxpayer. This year, we... for those of you who have any of you actually had to buy a city sticker at City Hall? Okay. And was there a line when you went? Okay. So the closer you get to the end of city sticker season, which is only a month and a half, it's 6 weeks. It's June 1st to July 15th. It becomes like Great America out there, right? I mean, these lines are so long, but then there's no fun ride at the end of it. It's like you get a teller, you have to pay this tax, and if you're lucky, you get a nice teller, but not always, right? So we want to make sure it's always a nice teller and that you're able to pay your tax. Well, when I'm in line talking to people, and I had the opportunity to do that as often as I could, if I saw somebody that looks young and that I think obviously knows how to use a computer, I would ask him, why are you in this line? Like, I love seeing your face, it's nice to say hello, but honestly, I would rather you save the hour that you're waiting in this line, or the travel time to City Hall, parking expenses, whatever, however it is that you got here. You could do this in your pajamas at home online. It's so simple. And then people told me, which is interesting, that the major reason why they didn't go online to purchase your city sticker is not because they don't trust the internet. It's not because, they're afraid of Big Brother or anything like that. It's because they don't trust their postal carrier. Isn't that interesting? So people say, well, I don't get my mail very accurately. And sometimes my neighbor gets my mail or whatever, and I'm putting $75 in, I'm purchasing this online, and somebody can just grab my mail, or I might never get it, and then I have to come down here anyway. So I thought, okay, that's a really interesting customer feedback point, and what do we do with that? So then one of my workers said to me, Clerk, I have an idea, would you mind if I share it with you? And I said, no, I'd be happy to, bring them. So he said, what if we did a will call service here? Because we have this huge line, most people pay with check, and if we did a will call, we could take it kind of like when you go to Walgreens, drop off your prescription, and then we let them know when it's ready for pickup, and they can come get it. Because a lot of the people that pick up their city stickers at City Hall work around the area or live around the area, and it's really convenient for them to go in on their lunch hour. So I thought that was a great idea. And as a matter of fact, my deputy clerk, who I have the greatest respect for, he's like, that's never going to work. So here's where we go into this thing about like mentalities of like, this is how we've always done it, so this is how things need to be done because we know this works. 2, let's try something new. Let's get out of our comfort zone, right? I thought, hey, that's a great idea. So I said, I'm not listening to you, Ed. I think you're awesome, but on this one, I'm going with what I think and what Wade thinks, who's working the front lines. Let's try it. So the last 10 days, which is the busiest season that we have, we implemented a will call service at City Hall. It was a little pilot. We tested it out. It was great. So we'd pull people out of line and say, do you want to wait in this line? If you want, just drop off your check. We printed out these envelopes with all the fields. They filled everything out. And then we called them as soon as their city sticker was ready, and we asked for a 24-hour window. So that was super successful. We had hundreds of people take advantage of that. And every single one of the feedback cards that we instituted this year for the first time that came back talked about the will call service, how effective that was. Please, I hope you do this again next year. So then what we're doing now is we're extending that onto the online service. So now when you go to purchase your city sticker online, you'll have an option that says, how would you like to receive your sticker? Check this box if you want it delivered to your home. Check here if you'd like to pick it up at City Hall or at one of our 2 satellite offices. So those people we know are already willing to go wait an hour in line at City Hall or 30 minutes. But now, if we go ahead and allow them to purchase their city sticker online, they don't trust their mail carrier, but they do know it'll be waiting for them at City Hall or at a nearby satellite office. They can check that, and then we'll send them an email notifying them that their city sticker is ready for pickup at X location. So real simple stuff. It doesn't cost us an extra, I mean, maybe just, you know, $1 or $2 in terms of reformatting that program or the software, but it's really a no-brainer, and it's going to make the customer experience so much easier. So that's what I want to do. If I have to collect $75 from you or more, I want to make it as easy as possible for you, because that's going to ensure that we can collect more revenues from people and that everybody's in conformance with the law and paying their fair share. So at the end of the day, for me, everything that I do in that office is centered around how would I like to be treated as a Chicagoan that has to pay this. So those are some of the things that we're working on. Our online service, I promise you, by the end of my term is going to be the best that you know and that you've experienced in this city. We're not there yet, but I'm going to keep making my point, and I just hired somebody that's going to be focusing on the whole CRM system and what we need to do to get there. And we also have a legislative information center, which is an online service for you to go and find out anything you need to know about your aldermen and the legislation that they've introduced, and to follow the city council proceedings and things of that nature. So that's really going to be state of the art, right up there with the state of Illinois' legislative information system. Ours is the Legislative Information Center, which is easily accessible through our homepage as well on our website. So for me, the whole tech thing is a huge, huge center point of what my office is going to be. I think it will help create efficiencies. It's going to streamline government for us. We're going to have to find other duties for some of our employees to do. But what it will do is it will guarantee us a reduction in overtime costs, which right now are completely out of hand. In the past, our office has asked for a $40,000, well, they've been given a $40,000 allotment for overtime in 2 accounts. We're funded by 2 accounts. Each one of those has $40,000. We sat down with the budget this last week, and we saw the numbers from last year, and while we were budgeted for $40,000, we spent $168,000, right? So does that make any sense? It's like ridiculous in overtime, and in the other account, $154,000. So I told our staff, all right, this 40,000 number is obviously unrealistic. It's like a make-believe number that the mayor's office had asked to put in there so citizens don't go crazy when they see $150,000 in overtime. So I said, we're going to get rid of these little make-believe numbers, and I'm going to be honest. We provided the mayor with a 10% reduction in our overall expenditures. That hurts. I mean, it really does hurt. But if the mayor's out there cutting, we're going to cut there too. We need to help Chicago get our house in order. So I just presented a budget to the mayor that has a 10% reduction in our overall costs, and we've taken our overtime request from this real number, which was $168,000, to a maximum of $68,000, right? So we're not asking for 40, we're asking for 68. My office freaked out. They're like, we can't do it, and I'm like, we're gonna have to do it. So $68,000, and the other one I think has maybe 65, or it's in the same ballpark, less than $70,000 in overtime, which is it's more than half of a reduction in what the real numbers were over the last few years. But I think it's a doable number. Now, can we do it? I'm not sure, but we're sure gonna give it a try. And I had a big, long meeting with my employees yesterday, reiterating to the leaders and the supervisors that no overtime. That means no overtime, unless it is an emergency, and you have to sell me on why we're going to approve that overtime. We're going to keep to that number and hopefully try to come in under it. Now, the message that we should send to the rest of the staff is, we're trying to do this to save jobs, right? We want you people to keep working here. You provide good service to Chicagoans. So you have an option of whether we're going to stick to our overtime schedule and we're all going to still work here, or we're going to go over the overtime schedule and one of your employees you're going to have to say goodbye to, because those are really our choices. And so I say it's a different day. Not the same way as it used to be, and I'm the boss now, and I'll be here for 4 years. So I would like all of you to stay here and work the hardest that you can, but we have an obligation to the City of Chicago taxpayer. It's not our money. It's the City of Chicago taxpayers' money, and we owe accountability to them. And I think we can meet that number. So what we're going to do next year is, instead of selling city stickers during a 6-week period, which all of you who have had to go to City Hall and have had to wait in those long lines, you're probably asking, why do we do that? I asked my staff, why do we only sell city stickers June 1st through July 15th? And not a single person had an answer for me. It was like, well, I don't know, we've always done it that way. It's always 6 weeks. I said, that's crazy. All right, so next year, there are issues that come into play, like getting the sticker produced, getting it distributed to the 400 plus vendors that we have and City Hall locations. So that does take time, but we have that pretty much done by March. So I'm thinking, all right, we're gonna extend our city sticker season at the very least to May 1st, and ideally April 1st. So we'll sell from April 1st to July 15th. That will spread out the pain for everybody. You'll have more time to purchase your sticker. We'll have more time to process the hundreds of thousands of mails and applications that we get, which is archaic. So please don't ever mail in your renewal form. Go online, please go online. But that will at least give us the opportunity to do a lot of the heavy lifting on the front end when people aren't rushing to City Hall because they only have 6 weeks. And it will help us seriously reduce our overtime costs. So I'm asking people to do more with less, but I'm also trying to extend our season so that I'm not asking too much of an impossibility of our employees. So I think we can do it, but it's all just about good management and people buying into what we're trying to do. But that's, I guess, a pretty full update of what we're doing. And any other questions? In terms of our website, for example, on just very good corporate websites. For example, when you go to Amazon.com and you purchase a book, they give you like 5 other choices of things that you might be interested in doing, right? You have a shopping cart. You have a whole experience of shopping. It's almost like you were at this huge mall with anything and everything you could possibly want at just a click of a finger. Also, if you were to call, let's say, do any of you have cable, Comcast, as an example?
Don't mention.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay,
But
but the point is, when you call,
that's what I'm afraid of. Would that end up, the other end?
No. The whole point is we would.
Dangling on the phone, trying to get a live person.
Right. Yeah, that's automated systems you're talking about.
Yes.
Right. But let's say you do get through to someone. As soon as they have you on the phone, they have a record of all of your transactions, of anything that you've ever done with that particular company, whether it's Comcast or People's Gas or anybody, right? They have a customer relationship management system in place, which means you're able to track your own stuff. I think it's really important for you to be able to go into your own account and follow everything that you've done with our office as a history. You can't do that right now. Right now, if we screw up and we lose your file, and you come and say, I bought my city sticker, and we say, well, we don't have any proof of that. Well, guess what? We don't have any proof of that. You can't prove it unless if you have your receipt. And these things happen. Government makes mistakes. The one thing I would say about the biggest frustration versus a corporation and government is that within 20 minutes of being the city clerk, it became clearly evident to me that government is made to be inefficient. It is a scary thought. And it is such a challenge to deal. You see the mayor dealing with the unions right now? And to think that, for example, if there were layoffs across the board, the ones that get laid off first are the ones with the lowest seniority. It's not the people with the lowest job performance, it's the people with the lowest seniority. Now, I find that the people with the best job performance in my office are the ones with the lowest seniority. They're like the newer people that come in and they're still like excited to be working for the city of Chicago, and they're like, I love my job and I'm so happy I have a job. Whereas people that have been there a long time, not all of them, I mean, I certainly have great employees, but I also have a handful of employees that shouldn't be there. And it is virtually impossible for me to get rid of that situation and bring in people that I know would do a good job, or at least would be thankful to have a job and would want to have a smile on their face when they're dealing with the customers. So just the thought of having to deal from a management perspective with employees who, if they put half of the energy that they put into learning the rules about their protection of their job, right? If they just put half of the energy that they put into that, into actually working on behalf of Chicago taxpayers, I would be thrilled. But they don't, and basically they control the operation. So that's the reality of life. So I wish when we talk about redoing union negotiations, and let me tell you, I have a 97% voting record over 10 years in the legislature, pro-union, pro-labor. Having said that though, I think that those type of things should be, when we talk about renegotiating those contracts, they should somewhat be based on job performance. Because in the private sector, if I don't perform, guess what? I get fired. In government, if you don't perform, oftentimes it really is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. And that, to me, is unacceptable as a taxpayer. Forget about being city clerk. I mean, I just think if people actually knew how it runs, and it's not just our office, it's city government across the board, there would somewhat be anarchy in the streets. But, you know, I guess maybe the less you know, the better sometimes. But those are the realities of the challenges that I face. So you have to make the most of what you can with what you have. And you have to be really creative. But I can tell you that I still absolutely love every minute of it, and I'm excited to see what lays ahead. The morning conversations from the Niagara Foundation are so much fun. Why? Because you have so many people from different walks of life, different cultures, different communities, different countries. And all of us come together to talk about things that we all share in common. And that's one of the things that I find that is true across the world and that the Niagara Foundation gets, which is regardless of a person's religion, their culture, their country of origin, there's so many more things that we share in common than are things that separate us. And that's why for me, the Niagara Foundation, when they're out there promoting global fellowship, they are so important. They're such an important partner in peace, whether it's here in Illinois or certainly on a global level. But you know, my commitment to working and fostering that relationship with the Niagara Foundation is very solid because I see the tremendous work that they do on behalf of their country. I'm promoting Turkey, but also I'm building friendships that are long-standing with everyone from every religion, from every culture, and from every part of the world.